Okay, so we're going to talk some cover-up stuff. I wanted to talk about Stacey's most recent ankle piece. It was done with a blue snake. We placed that over top of what was like maybe a 20-year-old, at the time, quite popular kind of, I guess, swells, filigree, a little bit of floral stuff in there maybe. But beyond that, really, it was just a matter of, okay, we know what we're up against. And then what we're going to do right now is kind of talk you through how it was structured, as in the design, how the design was structured, and then how we placed it. I'll look at what that transfer looks like and all sorts of stuff. It'll look a bit strange, but hopefully it'll give you a good idea on how we might structure a design to get your cover up done. So if we, excuse me, I'm on the laptop here. If we go back to, where are we? If we go back to the actual design source. So right here, if I remove some of these layers, I do apologize. Right. So currently you've got the snake and the extra leaves and stuff that we put together. They're currently all over the piece right now. So this is what the idea was. When we send this to a client, this is kind of what that looks like. What we've got underneath, though, is an actual photo of Stacey's leg, and you can see what we're up against. It's not a lot of heavy black, but there's enough black in there that if you wanted to put something bright across the top of it, that it's not going to be the easiest thing unless you've got layers of color. So, to the idea, when we do things, I think you guys might have heard me talking about it. We do things in stages. Stage one is typically all of the solid black. So let's say we've got this, we place this snake over top. We've got solid black here, we've got solid black underneath the jaw. There's a lot of like dark versions of green. There's also a lot of dark versions of gray and blue. So with that particular thought process in mind, stage one is always structure. So it's anything that's required to create a shape that's dark. So all of the blacks, all of the really dark versions of the colors that are associated. So like I said, the grays, the blues, the greens in this case. They are mixed up as we go. It's that kind of stuff. We place out a basic palette. Then from there, we're mixing as we go, depending on what I need. In this particular case, what we decided to do was start at the top. So we actually put in stage one. Stage two would normally be all of the midtones, so anything that you see in the middle here, but none of the opaques and opaques of the colors plus the highlights. We actually just complete it as we move because the skin was accepting it and that was fine. So actually what you've got is a section, like a day session, say, where we did all three stages, but it still has to be done in that format. So I have to put the black in first, any of the dark greens and stuff like that, things that I need for structure. Then we place in the midtones. Now, typically with a cover up, I place the midtones, so stage two, a bit further than we normally would, like in any other tattoo if it was fresh skin. What we're trying to do is create a base layer. When that heals, normally we would come back and we'd place the highlight over top. Because we did all three stages here at once, that wasn't necessarily appropriate. We just placed all three stages in as if it was fresh. So if you look at the image, on that top side where the snake's face is, actually the shadow is sitting kind of where that butterfly is, where that top flower is, but the rest of the snake face is on top. So actually that worked out quite well for us. We didn't need to do much with that. The snake face could be complete as if it was fresh because the stage one typically goes in really well, even if it is cover up. So that's kind of the thought process on that one. That's what we did. Now, that's a design. That's what we're trying to cover up. You'll notice that the design is bigger than the area that we're working on. A lot of that is just, here's what it could look like. We'll place what it ends up looking like on the skin in terms of a transfer. And then we can determine how much, Stacey wants or doesn't want for the finished product. So over here, I'm going to remove these two. I'm going to kind of show you what the transfer looks like. So it can look a bit weird. If you've seen any of my cover-up things just recently, there's a lot of randomness happening. It's like a noisy image, if you'd like. And that's because of the way that we use the fillers here. So this is what that transfer looks like. The transfer is just turning what we had there in terms of color into either a 1 or a 0. And by that, it's either black or it's nothing. And you end up with something that kind of looks like a photocopy, I guess. And then when we print out the color reference, we can use that with this stencil. And we should be able to see what colors need to go in where. But what I'm looking for in this particular cover-up stencil is just what I need. So is the structure in place? Can I get the colors in based off of that? Or is this going to be simply too complex for me to figure out how we're going to move forward with it, like how we're going to progress it? A good idea of too complex would be, let's say we look at the back of the head here, and we look at that stuff back there. If I'm tattooing the structure into the face and then I'm wiping away and I'm not paying attention, and I wipe away some of the structure up here, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to kind of see what's left of that transfer in order to get that in place. So those, it's typical tattoo 101 stuff. It's about making sure that the inks that go in there go in if they're needed, not, you're not just kind of making it up as you go. If all else fails, you print this off again and you stick it back in. Really simple, right? So that's what the transfer looks like. When we actually sent the idea to Stacey, this is kind of what that looks like. It's not over the top, but you saw the original image in its entirety, but this is kind of what I sent to Stacey. It's like, hey, this is kind of what we can do. This is what I would look to do as a finished product on your skin. It'll be an approximation of this because everybody's skin will accept the ink slightly differently. And depending on your skin tone, it will determine whether that stays exactly as it went in or whether your skin tone might dull it off or something slightly. It really depends on the individual. It typically, if you can tan, and I fucking go on, that would end up being slightly dull. If you were to place this in my skin, this would look like this 10 years later because I genuinely can't tan. I get more freckles, but if you go a bit of a tan, that'll slightly dull it off. So nothing crazy there. So this image right here, this is the end of the first session. Now you guys have seen what that transfer looks like. You've seen what the source material looks like in terms of the design. This is what it actually looks like for the first session. So if you see, I've placed in a lot of that black. It's quite heavy. And then we've got all the stuff on that face. You can imagine that this image is kind of on a cone right now. So as much as we saw the nice flat image on the screen just a moment ago, when it's on a cone like that, it does kind of, it warps how that face might look. And this was just a photo for me to kind of show you maybe what that back leaf looked like with respect to the face as well. Great way to show like a first session. So right here, you've got a lot of this black. And what we've got, if you notice, like there's a bit of black that kind of trails off to the front of the shin. The reason that's in place and the reason I've got these little bits that stick out there, I would consider that an anchor point. So an anchor point is where when I print the next stencil off for the next time that she comes in, we can just line these little bits up and it'll all kind of just stick back into place wherever it was to begin with. It's not such a big deal, but that's kind of why that's where it is. At this particular time, that was a lot of work that particular day. So really didn't fancy pushing that skin too much. If you look at the black here, there's a little bit of redness on that one side. So right here. And it was getting a bit swollen. If we look at the back of the ankle there, just above the Achilles, that doesn't look particularly happy. But we've definitely got all that coverage. So if you look in these sections here, that's where the cover up would be. I'm really happy with that progress so far. If you have any questions about what we have done in terms of like putting this together and like from what you see so far, just shoot me a message, let me know. So what we move on to, this is the finished product. So when Stacey came in after that, we placed the transfer in. We actually did, we did 2 sessions after that to get to where we are now. But that's the whole cover up done. So that means that top side there that you're seeing right now is completely healed, completely settled. So that'll be how it stays. The lower side, you can see that we've placed in some highlights here in the middle, and that would have been the most fresh part. But we've placed highlights kind of at random points throughout as well, just to kind of double down on that. So in this particular case, stage 1, stage 2 are done, but I needed to go back and add stage 3 to certain areas. We there's always a chance that you get what's called ghosting. And ghosting is where we can see the original tattoo kind of showing through over time. When you have something like that, what you have to do is just, you have to let that settle. You know, what I really recommend is bio oils and stuff like that. You place the bio oils on, get that skin to regenerate, rejuvenate, and stuff like that, just so we can punish it again. If you look in the center here, you can just see how dry that skin is. It's really not happy. We did this tattoo session in really, really quick succession. So, you know, I think we completed this whole thing, so 3 sessions in like 2.5 weeks. That's unusually fast. Stacey has a particularly high pain tolerance, and her skin does really well with the punishment. So she's unusual in that sense, but in terms of how the finished product would be, this would be the same for most people anyway. It would just take a little bit longer. I recommend normally 2 to 3 weeks between each tattoo cover-up session, because what we're trying to do is get that skin to fully heal before we come back and damage it. So yeah, the cover-up is what you see there. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing over the top. It's not rocket science. I just have to follow the method. It is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, whether we apply them all at once or whether we do them in sections, depending on how big your piece is. And then, yeah, we kind of go from there. Your stage 2, if it's not color, will simply be like your mid-tone color gray, and whatever variants of that there are. This stuff right here, this is a bit more complex. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to like a novice artist or still a junior. But it's not outside the realms of possibility with a little bit of effort. Typically, with cover-ups, you don't necessarily need to make something as big and as heavy as this. But the biggest thing that I see from a lot of folks is people saying, hey, you know, it needs to be really dark, or you need to have laser first and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily an advocate for laser unless it's big, huge, and I do mean like a few square inches worth of solid black. Other than that, it's more about, let's make sure that we put what we want on there rather than what we think we should have. Because there's a lot of kind of tattoo culture things where people are like, hey, it's going to be dark, it's going to be massive, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. I mean, tattoo fixers are just a bunch of idiots. I've never seen a show so bad and so inept at cover-ups. It's incredible. So yeah, don't listen to those guys. This is a finished product. This is all done. This is all settled. This is all healed. I've seen this months later. It still looks like this. You can get these cover-ups done. It takes a little bit of time. It's a little bit more commitment from your side. But so long as your artist, whoever you choose, can talk you through your stages and set you up, and because there's some very good artists out there. The girls here would be able to do it pretty shortly as well. But whoever you choose knows what they're doing, and they can talk you through the process, so you know what to expect. You know how that heel is going to go. But really, those are the stages. I mean, you can help yourself out. You can look at like bio oils. You can eat more as well. Like the more fuel you have in your system, the better this ends up healing. So it's a lot of stuff like that. I don't think there's much more I need to go over the subject. If you feel like you've got questions on what we've talked about, I appreciate this very long. If you've got questions, shoot me a message, put a message or a comment somewhere, but we can try and answer them for you in a follow-up if we feel it's needed. Yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully this helps. I gotta get back to work. Look after yourselves. Bye.